that people are waiting. But it says on this page that we are live. If you're live, give us
Ooh.
a thumbs up. Hey, people. I'm just going to refresh the page. Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up?
The funny thing is, the conversation in the secondary college today, we were talking about digital life and the pros and
Okay.
cons of digital
Yeah.
technology, whether we like our Zoom filters, whether
Mm-hmm.
whether we like the connection, how hard it is to chat
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
screens off, all of this stuff that you
Mm-hmm.
start the meetings by sitting
Mm-hmm.
there with the jitter going, who's in, who's
Yeah.
out. This is just normal life now, the new
But
normal, isn't it?
you're professional because you've got a microphone.
Yeah, I've got quite a studio set up in here now.
Yeah.
It's been a
Was
the
this
thing.
before lockdown or since?
Well, you see, I live in a new town. We don't have a church
Mm-hmm.
building.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of the church kit was in my house when lockdown hit. So we've been having fun with an entire
Yeah.
worship band's worth of equipment that to play with, and that was quite fun. So
Okay, that makes
we've got the
sense.
decent setup, and
Yeah.
I now have bright lights which help with
Yeah,
winter
smashing
approaching.
it, smashing it. I'm just hanging out in the kitchen, which is great. So
Yeah, but closer to the
let's say
coffee.
yeah, sure. Let's just say hello again. We are live now. What's up? My name is Jacob. I'm from Brightland. This is our fifth session, and this is my friend Beth. Say hello, Beth.
Hello.
Like we've already been chatting.
Hello, nice to meet you. Hi from Northstowe.
Hey, what is up? What is up? So this is our first official session that is happening during lockdown. How are you feeling about lockdown? Lockdown part 2.
Yeah, there are some things that have changed,
Mm-hmm.
but actually, this lockdown, because young people are still in school, it doesn't
Yeah,
seem quite so drastic.
it
I
doesn't seem
think
quite
it
as
was home
intense. Yeah.
learning that
Mm-hmm.
was really tough in the
Yeah.
first lockdown, and we hadn't actually gone back to doing full blown church activities.
Mm-hmm.
We got hire out my garage. That was amazing. We had rule of 6 young people hanging out in my
Yeah.
garage doing the hire
Amazing.
tour and watching the live streams.
Sick.
So we did do some of that, which obviously we couldn't now. And I've
Mm-hmm.
had to go into the school on Teams today, which had its own adventures.
Yeah.
But I think the nice thing about those of us that are digitally native is that we can actually continue to connect quite a lot. It's not
Mm-hmm.
the same, but
Yeah.
there's
Yeah,
been
for
some good
sure.
stuff in it.
Amazing. So Beth, what tips would you give people who lockdown is foreign to? Say imagine if this was someone's first lockdown, what kind of tips would you give them for this lockdown we're in now?
Yeah, you don't need to stockpile the loo roll. That kept coming. That was probably a good one.
That's just
And
annoying. Or the pasta.
and I think when the first lockdown hit, then loads of my friends were like, "Oh, I'm going to read so much. I'm going to read the
Yeah.
Bible from cover to
Yeah.
cover." I know you challenged us to do that last week, actually, didn't you? But, to actually be kind to
Yeah.
yourself. That
Mhm.
it's getting dark. It's quite hard to be living
Yeah.
through these times of constant
Mhm.
anxiety,
Yeah.
and to go easy on yourself. We were reading in the Old Testament the other day about how important a snack
Mhm.
and a nap is to God's
Yeah.
prophets, and I think if God's prophets needed a snack and a nap, so do we sometimes. So
I
actually,
like that.
see that lockdown is a time when you can just take a snack and a nap, and then use it maybe as a bit of a time of preparation for what God's going to do next. But don't feel you have to
Mhm.
burden yourself on to use this as some super holy retreat time.
Yeah,
This is
for
a
sure.
tough time.
Yeah, for sure. I love
Yeah,
that. A
yeah,
snack and a nap. Two of my favorite things. Two of my favorite
yeah,
things. So
yeah.
that actually leads me
So
on to
what's
my
your
next
favorite
question.
snack? I want to know, what's your
Oh,
favorite snack during
That's
lockdown?
that literally leads me on to my next question. I was going to say, if you could choose one meal to eat for the rest of your life, what would it be? So I can answer first. You ask me what my favorite
Yeah, go on,
snack
go on. You
is.
go first while I'm thinking.
I grew up in Mexico, so I love tacos. So I'm talking like soft tortilla tacos,
Yeah.
and then you can. I mean, I'm a vegetarian now, but when I lived in Mexico, you can have beef, you can have pork, you can have chicken, you can have fish. So you can switch it up. You can have whatever you want. Then you've got the pico de gallo, which is tomatoes and onions. You put some salsa, you put some guacamole, and oh man.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
Oh,
you have
that does
breakfast
sound good.
tacos, lunch tacos, or dinner tacos. Those are
Oh,
what you.
I'm hungry
Yeah.
now. We've
Whew.
discovered putting black beans into tacos as one
Yeah.
of our
Oh,
lockdown meals, actually. That's been pretty
so
good.
good.
Yeah, now I know you're a vegetarian. I'm going to feel a bit bad about saying this, but
No,
our
don't.
big thing here in Northstowe
Yeah.
is bacon. We are
Bacon. Okay.
huge bacon fans. One of the first community events I ran once we moved in was a pop-up bacon butty stall, and I did it in partnership
Amazing.
with
Was
Active
there
New
brown sauce?
Communities.
Was there brown
There was
sauce?
a choice. You
Okay.
could have brown sauce, red sauce. You could put
Okay, good.
butter in your butties if you
Good,
wanted to.
good.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, we did this in partnership with a local group who were trying to promote active, healthy living because we're a healthy new town. So I was
Okay.
providing the bacon, and then my friend Christine was trying to sign them up to badminton to burn off the extra calories.
Amazing.
So yeah,
Two
and then
sides. Amazing.
yeah, so we have in non-lockdown times we have bacon butties at church once a month, and that's always a
Love
big
that.
treat.
I
In
love
COVID
that.
times, we've been doing Zoom breakfast, and we come and we show each other and make each other hungry what we're eating.
Amazing.
So
That's
that's
great.
that.
My
Yeah.
my wife's American and it's Thanksgiving in 3 weeks, and she's obviously
Oh,
heartbroken that we can't all be together. So we've
yeah.
organized a Zoom Thanksgiving. We're all gonna make
Brilliant.
and she's gonna make the American dishes and
Yep.
drop them off, but then we'll sit there all in front of our screen. So exactly like
Nice.
you're saying and do
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Are you
So
going to do a
so
cook along beforehand and work together
what
and
as in
cook the
like
same recipe?
that's a great idea.
Oh, that
I
goes down
love
so
that.
well.
A
Yeah.
cook along. That sounds. I'm an awful cook, but my wife can do the cook along. I'll just
And
keep
you can do the
the
commentary
glass
and the
topped off. I
music.
can do the
It'll be great.
commentary.
I would tune in to
Yes.
watch that.
That sounds great. Amazing. Beth, this is your first week hanging out with us. So why don't you tell us a bit about your story? Why do you love Jesus? Why do you run this church? Why are you part of what's your story, Beth?
Yeah, yeah. I it's always hard to pick one bit
Hmm.
out of your
Hmm.
story. And I suppose for me, I am a person who loves big questions. So much
Hmm.
so I go into the primary school and they want me to sing the big questions song next week. I just love asking big questions. So
Amazing.
I ended up studying science. I have a
Hmm.
PhD in quantum physics. I really like to know how and why things
Yeah.
work. And for me, I grew up in a family that went to church, and I was encouraged to ask the questions,
Yeah, that's
to
cool.
ask, how does this work? What does it mean to me? And there
Hmm.
comes a point, doesn't there, where you have to say, is this something I really believe in? Is this a worldview that I can sign up to? So I think I was about 16 when I made that decision and said, this really is my faith. It's not just something I've seen people around me. And and then the next step was to go off and study physics and to keep asking those big
Mm,
why
mm,
questions. And as a physicist, I think the more I delve into the beauty of God's creation, the more I just want to say, wow, God. And the more I delve into the mystery of really advanced physics, the more I think,
mm,
the mystery of the Trinity is nothing compared to wave
mhm.
particle duality. This is fine. We can do this. But it's just for those of us who are people of faith, science
Mhm.
makes us say, wow. I don't think you can go science, therefore God, but you can go God and science. Wow.
Yeah, I
And
love that.
so for me, I ask a lot of questions, and I like talking. Like this might
Mm.
be coming across. I like talking to people. I like hearing their stories,
Yeah,
hearing where
yeah,
God's turned
yeah.
up. And my own experience is that God always turns up in the messy times. When I was
Mhm.
at university, I was really ill. I ended up in hospital for a while,
Wow.
and even though I was really not well, I had a profound sense that God was with me. A lot of things didn't
Mm,
feel clear or certain, but God was there. And as
mhm,
I have gone through life, I'm fully recovered. The wonders of the medicine that God provides,
mm.
doctors, brilliant gift from
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
As I've gone through the rest of my life, knowing that God was with me in those darkest days, has inspired me, I think, then to want to walk with people even in their dark days,
Mm,
not to give them answers, but to, I suppose, to pray alongside them, to sit in the darkness with them,
mm.
and to know that God is with us.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I like what you said as well, like the whole science thing. A lot of people think that, oh, science like disproves God or we're Christians, so therefore we don't believe in science, but they can work hand in hand.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
which is which
There are
is so
loads
cool.
of Christians who are scientists and scientists who are Christians.
Exactly.
They're not contradictory. Um,
Hmm.
so long as you ask the questions, I think if you try and do a simplistic understanding of science or a simplistic understanding of God, you might have some problems. But
Mm,
um, actually in the beauty of the complexity, and I do like a beautiful problem, there
Yeah.
then you start to see the overlaps.
That's so good. It's so good. And today we're talking about being chosen. The past few weeks we've talked about the Bible, we've looked at the gospel, we've looked at prayer, and to be chosen, there are hundreds of choices that we make every single day. Like you chose whether or not to hang out with me right now on Zoom. You chose what socks to wear this morning, what shoes to put on, what to eat for lunch, whether to be nice around the people around us. We have so many choices. And in the Bible, I was reading, there's this character called John the Baptist, and he was a man who was chosen by God for a specific purpose. He was so sure of his identity that he didn't care what people thought of him. He even moved into the desert, and his clothes, they were made out of camel hair. Interesting. And he ate locusts, which are, if you don't know what locusts, they're bugs. And he
Yeah,
ate
yeah,
wild honey.
I'm not up for that.
I'm
No.
not up for that. I wonder if he dipped the locusts in the honey just to give it more of. There's not much variation if all you've got is locusts and honey.
I
Um,
have tried locust chocolate. That was
wow.
okay. Yeah.
As in,
Yeah.
could you
Chocolate
like?
with locusts crushed up in them. That I could cope
Wow.
with. They didn't look like locusts. It just looked like chocolate with a bit of extra crunch.
Amazing, amazing. But I'm sure John's locusts weren't covered. He didn't care what people thought about him. He just knew that he was chosen, and his thing was preparing the way for Jesus. It was a special
Absolutely.
job. He met Jesus. He baptized him in the River Jordan. But then he eventually ended up in prison, and Herod chopped his head off. His life wasn't particularly fun, but the John the Baptist we read out in the Bible had a purpose and a plan. You know what I mean? He understood that God had chosen him and had a plan and had a purpose for his life. And there are so many other stories. We can think about Samson, who actually had superhuman strength. We love, like, Captain Marvel or Wonder Woman or Iron Man or the Hulk, but like this guy legit was like
Yeah.
that, but real. Like he was
Yeah.
he was hench.
Yeah.
Um, he was a hench, and but he lost sight of God's purpose for his life, and he lost his strength. But then he got it again, and he got his strength back. He understood the plan and purpose God had for him, and
And you
if
know
you're
what I
watching
love
it,
is that
go ahead,
when
yeah.
when people mess up, that's
Mm,
not the end either. I
yeah,
love it when we read about the
100%.
saints of old, the great big biblical heroes. God had a
Yeah.
plan and a purpose, but almost all of them messed up big time.
That's
And
so good.
they could have written the Bible and edited out the bad bits. And sometimes
Yeah.
we only read the good bits. But
hmm
actually, when you read the bad bits too, you see
Yeah.
ordinary men and women like us that we can relate to.
Yeah.
And they have these amazing God moments, and then they do something stupid. All of them. I
hmm
mean, Noah, David, the lot of them.
Yeah.
But as you say, God has a
Mm,
purpose.
yeah.
And I found that so encouraging. But I
Yeah.
interrupted you
100%.
mid-flow. You must have more
No,
heroes to talk about.
100%. No, 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 no. I was about to move on just to like for everyone watching, like I wonder what your life would look like if you stopped thinking about almost what the world was thinking about you and you just thought about what God thought about you. How many
Oh,
times a
yeah.
day do you think, oh, what does that person think? Or I want to tell that person about Jesus, about this amazing thing I found, but what would they think about me? The
Yeah.
Bible tells us that God has loved us, since the day that we were born. If all we cared about was that, what a difference would it make? And Beth, I wanted to ask you, like, how do you feel like your life has changed and like your life is different knowing that God has a plan and a purpose for your life? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm.
I think it is exciting and terrifying in equal measure
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
this is not an easy road to glory and miracles.
hmm
It's
hmm
not an easy path, but I. I think of it a bit like stepping off the map. You follow Jesus. He's got a plan. He knows
hmm
where it's going, but I don't have the map. So
Yeah.
I am following him off the map into uncharted territory.
Mm.
And to me, that there's a buzz about that. There's an adventure. We don't actually quite know where we're going, but we
Mm-hmm.
know who is walking with us, that
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, he's the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. He's the one who leads the way, and he's right in it with us. So I'm up for a journey off the map.
Mm.
I don't need to know the details. Oh, the number of times I go, God, just give me a big flashing neon
Yeah,
sign.
you
Tell me
just want
which
to
way to
see
go.
everything.
Just
Yeah, yeah,
show
yeah.
me. But
Mm-hmm.
actually, there is something about that vulnerability of
Mm-hmm.
of walking with God and
Yeah.
yet not knowing the full picture, that there is a trust that
Mm-hmm.
we need to give. Um, and I think that helps us then to be more gracious to people as well, that
Yeah.
it's not that we're saying we've got it all together and all sorted. We're aware that there are things we don't know, we're still learning.
Mm-hmm.
My study is so full of books, and yet I am still learning every
Yeah.
single day,
Yeah.
and most often learning from chatting to people, hearing their stories,
Mm-hmm.
hearing about those moments when we pray and, oh, you know what, God does something, and then another day chat to someone, they go, do you know what, I prayed and God did something. And this
So good, isn't
adventure
it?
of
Yeah.
discovery with people, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just such a adventure. I've used that word too much, but
No,
it
it's
really is an adventure.
exactly 100%, and that's like a big thing for me is that a lot of people think that like, oh, you become a Christian, so like everything's fine, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like it is an adventure and it is a
Yeah,
journey. You know, adventure wouldn't be the same if it didn't have its ups and downs. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, 100%. Um, okay, so Beth, getting to know you a little bit more. You told me a little bit about you have a puppy. But then I'm gonna ask you this. Talking about choices, do you choose cat or dog?
Oh, well, the dog is in here, so I'd better say dog.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, next question. Would you choose Netflix or would you choose just your normal standard BBC TV? Just channels
Or
one, two, three, four.
Netflix.
Netflix all
Netflix,
the way.
yeah.
True that, true that. Okay, Facebook or Instagram?
Oh,
Ooh.
that's a really tough one because I'm getting addicted to Instagram. It's probably not good, but yeah, I think I like Instagram now. I've just
Instagram's the
discovered
way, isn't it?
stories. That makes me really
Yeah.
sad, but
Stories will take up all your time because you're just like, oh, what's that person doing? What's that person
exactly.
doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's
This
like,
is my top lockdown tip is
yeah.
don't just spend all your time reading Instagram stories. There we go.
Yes, yeah, exactly, exactly. Okay, ice cream or cake?
Both? Can I have both? Piled on top of each other?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, two more. Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes
Pancakes. Sweet potato chips or normal chips?
or sweet potato chips.
Sweet potato. Okay. See, I'm not.
Yeah.
I've not got the whole sweet potato vibe. My
Oh,
wife
no, they're
loves them,
good.
but I'm like, oh, just normal potatoes all the way for me. Anyways, throughout our lives, we're told about who we are. You know, some of us might have parents who tell us they love us regularly. You know, others might not. You know, our teachers in school say you're amazing, or or we get detention because of something that we've done wrong. Um, we all words have power. In fact, the book of James in the Bible, it reads about how the tongue is really powerful. He compares it to like a small rudder. The ship has this tiny little bit, but it
Yeah.
can move this massive ship. Or like the thing that goes in the mouth of a horse, like this tiny thing can control this big thing. He says it can set the whole world on fire, and no one can tame the tongue. But we also know how easy it is to say the wrong thing. All the time, even even within Brightline, we're all mates and have been friends for like 8+ years, and I say one thing, and then it leads to I'm like, oh, why did I say that thing? I know how this person. Do you know what I mean? I know how this person feels about that, but I
Yeah.
still said that thing, and it's you know, and I'm sure,
And
like, if
especially if you're tired, I imagine if you're on
yeah,
tour and you're a bit
hmm
hungry or you've been up
yeah,
late, it's so easy to do,
hangry,
isn't it?
yeah,
Oh, yeah, I
hangry
get
is a real
hungry. Yeah.
thing. Hangry is a real
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah, you need those
we've all
tacos.
get those tacos. Thank you, thank you. Um,
Tacos in the Bible, we'll be sorted.
woo! What a life. But we've all said things that have hurt us. We've all had things said to us that have hurt us. I'm sure we've said things that have hurt other people. And when we choose to follow Jesus, it's not just a case of we're not just giving up our Sundays. We're not doing football or whatever. To go to church, or we're not just spending time reading more Bible. Those things are great, but we enter into like a brand new identity. And I love that thing. It talks about being born again. And it sounds so strange. Like I still just thinking about it, like being born again. I'm like, I'm what 26 years old, being born again. What are you talking about? But it's like it's being born again because you're stepping out of this life and you're stepping into a new life, which is, life with Jesus. Is You know what I mean? And
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and and identity isn't defined by how good we are in sport, in maths, or in singing. It's not even to do with what our teachers or parents say about us. Even though they may speak God's truth over us, that they're people too. Identity is based in the fact that God loves us, that He said that He created each and every one of us as unique, like our fingerprint is one of the. I mean, I don't want to say something wrong. You're a scientist, but our
Okay, I'm not a
fingerprint.
biologist, but yeah,
Okay,
fingerprints,
sorry. Yeah,
gorgeous.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Our fingerprints, one of the things that makes us unique. Like nobody's ever had that. We are unique. Um, and after we've chosen to follow Jesus, there are still times when we'll mess up, like you talked about before. So many people in the Bible. But because God has changed our identity, He remains faithful and He forgives us. It doesn't mean it doesn't matter whether or not we choose to go His way. It means we're always able to come back to the truth of who we are, no matter what we've done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and how Beth, how have you managed to switch from finding your identity in the things that people say about you to finding your identity in God? And I understand that it's not as black and white as one day
Yeah, it's an
choosing and the next
ongoing
day
thing,
not
isn't it? I mean,
choosing. Yeah,
particularly
fully.
you grab your Instagram and you look at your
Hmm.
hearts and you look at the likes and
Yeah.
has someone put a clap on my story
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
you want to be liked, you want to be
Yeah,
popular.
exactly.
But I think for me, it's about actually taking some time out with God in
Hmm.
amongst all the craziness of
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
and reminding ourselves of those key truths. Reading
Hmm.
the stories of the men and women who's gone before, see
Yeah.
how God turned up and loved them even when they messed up big time,
Hmm.
and and uh, and spending time in worship. And there's something
Yeah.
about when you think about who God is and how amazing it is that He made us, that He loves us, that He's got a
Hmm.
plan and a purpose for us, and daring to receive that love, then that
Hmm.
gives you a much stronger sense of identity than you can get from anything that you do. And then for me, there is something about living out our faith that
Hmm.
daring to take those steps of faith and seeing God use you in ways
Hmm.
that just don't quite make sense humanly, which is
Hmm.
so humbling and awe-inspiring when you recognize God at work. And you can't take the credit for it. You can't go, "Oh, aren't I great? I sorted this," because you know that you didn't. You know
Hmm.
God did it. So that sort of both keeps you humble, but also lifts you
Yeah.
up because it's like
Yeah.
He's using me. I am an agent of His kingdom. This is a
Hmm.
really exciting opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. It's so true, isn't it? It's so important, and it's so sometimes hard to do, but so important to remember that I'm a child of God. Like I'm part of His family now. You know what I mean? Like it says we're
Yeah.
co-heirs with Christ, and Christ is Christ, God. They're the creator of the universe. And we're co-heirs with Christ. It's absolutely amazing. And
Yeah.
and would
And
you
how
would you
often?
go
Oh, go on.
ahead? Yeah.
I was going to say, how often when Paul writes to the churches, he talks
Mm,
about the saints and he says, "I'm
mm,
constantly thanking God for you, the saints." And then he goes on and says about the good stuff and the bad stuff. But
yeah.
to think of ourselves as saints
Hmm.
and therefore people that God can use, uh, it's just amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. I just want to give a shout out to Wolf Fam. What's up, Wolf Fam? Thanks for hanging out. I think he was listening along before we were saying Instagram or Facebook, and he says Instagram. So we've got a lot of Instagram
Oh,
fans here.
excellent. I've got someone with me there. You'll
Somebody
have to
with you
follow
there.
me, make me feel better.
Amazing. And I think just to finish up, would you have like any tips for people who are just beginning their journey on how they can switch from a mindset of seeing those likes you were talking about? I know you touched on it a bit, but comparing themselves to the people they see and then just seeing themselves with the eyes of God. What kind of tips
Yeah.
would you help them from changing their view of themselves? Does that make sense?
Yeah. One of the things we often say that we're doing when we gather as church here in Northstowe is we say we're meeting together to meet with God and go out changed.
Hmm.
And I think those three aspects, that that when we come together with other Christians, that can be
Yeah.
really helpful to us to hang
Mhm.
out with the guys in the youth group and to hear their stories and dare to be honest and obviously
Mhm.
respecting people and listening carefully, but daring to share a bit of your own story with others
Yeah.
and your weaknesses as well as your breakthroughs. But
Mhm.
then, so connecting with each other, connecting with God, spending time as you've challenged us, reading God's word, reading the
Mhm.
stories of the men and women who've worked before us, walked this way before us, and
Mhm.
losing ourselves in worship music. And it doesn't matter what the style is, whether it's Brightline or whether it's choral choirs.
Mhm. Yeah.
I know I know what I've got on my playlist, but whatever the style is, losing
Yeah.
ourselves in worship to God,
Mhm.
and therefore we find ourselves transformed by those
Amazing.
encounters with other people and those encounters with God.
Yeah, amazing. Beth, it's been lovely chatting to you. Lovely
Yeah,
hanging out. Thank you so much for joining me
it
today.
has been great.
It's
Thank
been great,
you.
hasn't it? Yes, amazing. Well, everybody, please stay safe during this lockdown. Please follow, the restrictions. Stay away from people, socially distance, wear a mask, and all those things. We want to get out. We want to get through this as quickly as possible. And you know what? Have an amazing week. We'll see you next week. We'll have some more of my friends here hanging out, and we'll keep
Awesome.
chatting and learn about what it means to follow Jesus. Beth, have an amazing week. I'll see you soon.
Yeah. And you. Bless you. Bye bye.
Bye.